Hey guys, Lady Luck here. Are you going on any road trips this summer? I know I'm going to be going on a bunch of road trips, and being that I'm going to be passenger princess, I love playing on SpinQuest.com. SpinQuest has all of my favorite slot games, live blackjack, live craps. Head on over to SpinQuest right now and get yourself a $30 coin pack for just $10.
SpinQuest is a free-to-play social casino. Void where prohibited. Visit SpinQuest.com for more details.
Guided by a shared purpose and a spirit of collaboration, Emory University students push each other to think creatively and work cooperatively, knowing that different perspectives lead to new ideas.
What makes Emory special is that it has very rigorous academics, but a community that is willing to support each other. People are always willing to study together and work hard together.
Learn more at emory.edu.
Hello, I'm Anya Lichtarowicz, and this is Somewhere on Earth, your weekly look at how tech is impacting our everyday lives. I'm in London. It is Tuesday, the 28th of April 2026. Welcome to the Global Tech Podcast. Coming up today. What if an AI version of your voice was actually easier to understand than the real thing, and could be used in places like train stations or airports? New research shows voice clones can be up to 20% more intelligible in noisy environments, raising big questions about how we design public announcements, accessibility, and the future of communication. Then, from voices to oceans, how satellites and AI are helping protect fishing communities and marine life. A UK startup is turning space data into practical tools to track catches, predict environmental change, and even support whale conservation. This is Somewhere on Earth, the global tech podcast exploring the innovations shaping our world right now. Stay with us. Voice clones could soon sound clearer than you do. New research suggests digital copies of human voices, trained on just seconds of audio, can be up to 20% more intelligible in noisy environments. That's thanks to a smoother, more consistent sound profile, even while mimicking your unique speech patterns. For Somewhere on Earth, Professor of Speech Perception and Production at University College London, Patty Adangt, says that Clarity Boost could transform everything from train station announcements to accessibility in healthcare and education. But there's a twist. The same technology could preserve endangered accents and dialects, capturing voices before they disappear. The catch? Scientists still don't fully understand how humans judge these AI voices, and what we may lose as they get better than the real thing.
I got really interested in voice cloning initially because I thought using cloned voices would represent some sort of degradation of actual speech, of actual human speech. So a lot of my work in the past has been about degradation, such as background noise, such as people who speak really fast, or people like me who speak with a foreign accent. And I'm interested in how our brains deal with this kind of degradation. So when I did this research, I thought, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just look at, voice cloning, and surely those voice clones are not as good as human speech. Yet, because when you clone a voice, you take with you in that process, you take with you all the idiosyncrasies, all the weirdnesses, all the aspects of someone's voice, and people vary in how intelligible they are. So I thought, okay, I may see how people deal with cloned voices.
Can you tell me exactly what a voice clone is? Because we're not talking about a synthetic voice like Siri or Alexa or something that's made up. We're talking about a copy. Is that right? Can you just tell our listeners really what a voice clone is, so we're completely clear on what we're talking about?
Okay, so a voice clone is effectively also a synthetic voice. It's also a synthetic voice, but it aims to mimic specific characteristics of the voice of a person, of an existing person. So it is a copy of an existing person's voice, and you can then make that copy say whatever you want it to say.
Wow, so we could make a copy of me and we wouldn't need me to present this show at all. However, how understandable would I be? You found that probably very, if not my voice clone would be easier to understand than I would be.
I would need, by estimation, between about 3 and 10 seconds to clone your voice and get a new podcast presenter to speak the entire podcast. So it's not. So people, these current systems, they don't need that much input anymore because all those systems are pre-trained, and essentially your voice characteristics would just form like a mold or an imprint that would be used to create a whole new voice, a whole new speaker.
But my clone would be more understandable. Is that right?
It is very likely that the clone would be more understandable, and this is because the voice source of the cloning system. So the voice source is essentially the mechanism that produces the sound. So when I speak, say so that sound is the voice source. And so people vary in how their voice sounds. It is sort of shaped by aspects like age and health and your style of speaking, whether you have a very sort of low and rough voice, or whether you want to talk a bit more tense like this. So you can do lots of things with your voice. Mm-hmm. And voice clones tend to use this voice source that is fairly smooth. So it's very smooth, it has lots of variability in the pitch, and it's just very nice to listen to. And they sort of mold upon that, the way your tongue is shaped, and your mouth is shaped, and how your throat is shaped. That's sort of the mold that sort of puts that onto that voice source. And that initial voice source is just smoother. And a smoother voice source is associated with a more intelligible voice.
And it was quite significant. So in a noisy environment, it was as much as 20% more intelligible. So that's quite significant, particularly if you're hard of hearing, or as I age, I can already hear that in a noisy environment it's harder for me to hear. So perhaps a cloned voice would be better for some environments, would it not?
And it would be. So it varied, and it varied in several ways. So first of all, it varied depending on the voice. So some people were already really intelligible, so their improvement was about 5% in terms of accuracy. So we tested how good people were at repeating sentences that they heard in various levels of noise, because that's how we normally test how intelligible something is. And other voices, they improved by up to 24% in some conditions. So, and these tended to be voices that were a little bit more sort of special or idiosyncratic. So these voices were intrinsically a bit less intelligible. And by cloning this voice, the voice became a lot more intelligible. So it varies a lot. So I would say it's very likely that if I cloned your voice, your cloned voice, your voice clone would be more intelligible in different levels of background noise. And yes, that's really useful. Because you may be able to use these cloned voices to, first of all, maybe use them in broadcasting situations where you need someone, like say on a train station, you need someone to be very intelligible, and you may want to use a familiar voice. So say a voice actor or voice someone who is a professional announcer says, okay, you can use my voice, you can clone it, and you can use it all around all train stations, use my clone voice, and then announcement will be more intelligible.
Could it also improve, I don't know, maybe accessibility in education or healthcare or public services if people get messages in a clearer, more distinct way?
We already know that standard synthetic voices, so they are optimized for intelligibility. So you could just use a standard synthetic voice like Siri, right? So they are chosen. They're still a basic, they were trained on voice actors, on people with really, really clear speech, on hours and hours of recordings from these people. But a voice clone has the advantage that you can also clone your neighbor or your spouse or your child. And then, you can listen to audiobooks spoken in your children's voice or in your parents' voice or something like that. So it's the personalization that makes it more flexible.
Forget whatever plans you have this weekend because you're staying at home and playing on SpinQuest. And there's never been a better time to sign up than right now. New users get $30 coin packs for just $10. All the table games you love, with hundreds of slot games and real cash prizes. That's at spinquest.com. SPINQUEST.com.
SpinQuest is a free-to-play social casino. Void where prohibited. Visit spinquest.com for more details.
So if AI voices are already outperforming humans in clarity, what comes next with these cloned voices?
One of the things that I thought cloned voices would be really good for would be maybe to preserve sort of accents and dialects that are sort of dying out because no one speaks them anymore. And we can learn a lot as language scientists from accents and dialects about how a language evolves and how our language originates. So essentially, just we can learn a lot about language. But if all these dialects that are spoken by only a few people, if they're not preserved, then then we don't get to learn that. And also, it's a bit of a cultural heritage as well for certain groups of speakers. So it would be great if we could sort of replicate these accents and dialects really well using cloned voices, and if we could preserve those voices themselves as well. So at this point, I don't really think that the accent replication is all that perfect. Again, we don't know because people do not do research on these kind of things. So the people who create voice cloning systems, they don't do what I call human benchmarking, where they ask humans to rate, okay, so how good is this accent? How good is, how intelligible is this? They use automatic systems. They use automatic machine learning systems to automatically evaluate how good those systems are, how good the voices are. So at this point, me as a speech scientist, we've not had a look in so far in terms of, okay, so how do humans what aspects do humans value and what aspects are important to humans, etc. So those things are under research currently.
That's Professor Patty Adank, Professor of Speech Perception and Production at UCL. The research is published in the Journal of the Acoustical Society of America. Patty will also be in the Pod Extra version of this show. Yes, the one without the adverts at the beginning and end, and that will quite probably interrupt the show in about 30 seconds. It costs about $10 a month to get ad-free soap and lots more of it. Please search pod.fan somewhere on Earth podcast. Go to the page and subscribe. From space to the sea. How AI and satellite data could help fishing communities and protect marine life. A new startup is using Earth observation and artificial intelligence to track everything from fish catches to ocean conditions, helping coastal communities adapt to climate change, new regulations and shifting ecosystems. Abigail Hoover, CEO and founder of Orbiventure, says the key is working directly with fishers, combining satellite insights with real-world experience to build tools they actually trust and use. The goal? Smarter, more sustainable fishing, while also protecting endangered species like whales and supporting the long-term health of coastal economies. This space-powered approach could reshape the future of our oceans.
Well, we are focused in automating catch reporting and vessel analytics for inshore fisheries. And we do this through implementing satellite Earth observation and community co-design.
So tell me what the problem is that you're trying to solve.
That's a really great question. And that was the main reason why we created Orbiventure, was through this journey of speaking with inshore fishers and going out to the coast and kind of just understanding these local economies. And what we really discovered is as these coasts are changing, whether that's from climate change and the introduction of invasive species like octopus, or emerging regulations like marine protected areas, or even just competing coastal uses like offshore wind, many fishing communities are becoming increasingly concerned their way of lives are not being protected. In conjunction with this, a lot of them are already under financial hardship. So we found an opportunity where we could integrate deep tech into these communities to not only show how their ecosystems are changing, but also provide kind of economic models to help them build resilience and future forecasting.
So tell me a bit about the technology. You're mainly using satellite data. to tell them how their environments are changing and what they can do about it. Is that a too simplified way of thinking about it?
No, I think that's a really great way of kind of summarizing it in a nutshell. We use Earth observation data, multispectral imagery that kind of provides oceanic context, weather, tidal currents, sea temperature. But on top of that, we integrate vessel behaviors. So looking at the catch that happens on the boat, species, gear, location, and other qualities of kind of, I guess, fleet decision making that would provide context into not just how these zones are being used, but why they're fishing the way they are and where they're choosing their locations. And the goal of this is to really provide a deeper context into the fishing community. So when parties like regulators do create policies that affect their lives, they have a better picture of the actual people they're designing for.
Sounds like you're collecting quite a lot of data. Is this data already being used, or are you going to be in a position to be able to use that data, which will then lead to benefiting these fishing communities?
So you're right. Actually, I think many people view inshore fisheries as adverse to tech adoption or not really integrating different forms of, I guess, data sources into their day-to-day lives. But actually, things like Earth observation are already being widely used. Fishers look at it every day to understand kind of and predict where and when they should be fishing. But I guess how we could see it growing is through that community engagement, through that educational outreach, and through that co-design. We then create a dual relationship with the community that we're hoping to provide a product for. And at the end of the day, if we could create agency and data governance within these communities where they feel they have the capacity and the backing to use this data to not only showcase, you know, their necessities in the fishing industry and how the coasts should be used, also protected, that's kind of what we would want, and the end goal, to really kind of engage and inspire and kind of encourage a community that maybe doesn't have the time or the resources or the money to do that at the moment.
And I'm assuming by looking at all this data and gathering all these observations, you're going to be able to see what's happening to the environment. You're going to be able to advise on that part as well, how to maintain those ecosystems.
Oh, 1,000%. Our main value proposition, and I think something we really embody within Orbiventure, is how can we promote responsible fishing and responsible protection of our coasts. I think when people use the term sustainability, it's very much connected to environmentalism. Absolutely. It is. We need to think about resilient futures, both within the UK coast and Canada. But another part of sustainability is the economic sides, and recognizing that many of these coastal communities are almost fully funded by fishing. And if you start limiting their capacity to do that, then there is economic and supply chain effects that affect everyone. And so with Orbiventure, we're trying to create a more circular and more inclusive approach to give people the seats at the table that they deserve, but also recognize we're not just here to let people fish wherever they want. We're here to think, where should we be in 5, 10, 15 years to make sure these coasts are growing healthily, but we're also supporting people and planet.
And what stage are you at? Because we were chatting earlier and you mentioned, just a few name drops there of maybe some kind of space agencies, the UK, European. Tell me more. Where are you at through your phase of the business at the moment?
So we are new, but we are growing and moving strongly. Right now we're a team of 3. We're a women-based team. We just won, actually, the UKRI's GeoAI Festival. We were one of the 7 winners. We were actually the smallest company to win it as well. And with that came a year-long partnership with Satellite Applications Catapult. And yes, we're hoping to be onboarded into the UK Space Agency's LEO Accelerator. We have also gone through the Berkeley Accelerator as well with Eagle Labs. And fingers crossed, we're hoping to raise some grant money with the European Space Agency and other funding sources as well. So moving strong and hoping to grow a lot in 2026.
And when do you think you'll be kind of fully operational and being really able to help these communities?
Well, we're hoping to conduct pilot programs in Q4 of 2026, recognizing that we need to kind of target off seasons with fishers. And very excitingly, we've actually secured an expedition for May 2027 with our partners in British Columbia, looking at the effects of inshore fisheries across different nations on gray whale migrations. So hopefully we'll be living on a boat for 3 weeks, testing satellites' capabilities in tracking both biodiversity and human fleet behavior.
How do you actually engage these fishing communities to come on board and be part of your new venture?
Many of these communities are incredibly tight, and word of mouth is probably our biggest accelerator to speaking with people and also learning more and more about how these individuals operate, the societal operations that they work in as well. And so I think that's one thing. If you're within the fishing industry and you hear what we're doing and you're interested and would love to connect, we're definitely open and wanting to speak to as many people as possible. And you can find my email on the website or via LinkedIn, but we would love to speak to you, I suppose.
And give me that website link then.
We're www.orbiventure.com.
That's Abigail Hoover, CEO and founder of Orbiventure, an early-stage company using Earth observation and AI to support sustainable fishing, whale conservation and coastal resilience. Please don't forget to give us a rating on your favourite podcasting platform. It really makes a difference and helps our downloads grow. We really need to reach a minimum of 20 ratings on the major platforms for us to jump to the next level and have the show picked up for promotion. So if you've not done so yet, please do. If you would like to contact us, then please email hello@somewhereonearth.co. You can also comment on our socials. Steve Clark, thank you again for commenting on Facebook. He says, I think it can be quite tough as musicians these days, but then it always has been, and more people can get their tunes out there. I do worry about us being swamped with AI stuff. That is not what we want from technology. It's always nice to hear myself mentioned on the show. Also joining the conversation this week is Roger Rowe. I really enjoyed the piece on using AI to translate speech into sign language. That counts as a worthwhile, positive use of AI. I'm not sure how the people employed as signers would feel about it, though. Yes, a very important point there, Roger. Thank you for your comments. And a lovely email came from Angela in Kenya. She doesn't say where she is in Kenya, so maybe you could write back and tell us. Angela writes, I really like your podcast as I often hear from women who are leading the way in technology. I love that I can hear about others in many parts of the world who are really trying to innovate and help people. Some of the stories you cover, though, make me worry, especially the research into AI in toys. AI is really now almost everywhere, and I'm concerned I don't have a say as to how it impacts us. Please keep making the show. I'm telling my friends about it. Angela, Steve and Roger, thank you for contacting us, and I ask all of you to be like Angela and tell your friends about the show. That's all for this week. The production manager is Liz Toohey, and I'm the editor. Until next week.
Hey everybody, Lady Luck here, and we're celebrating America's 250th birthday. Now all summer long, I'm going to be celebrating by playing on SpinQuest.com, which is an American-owned social casino. It obviously features over 1,000 slot games and live blackjack, live craps, live bubble craps. Head on over to SpinQuest.com, get yourself a $30 coin pack for just $10.
SpinQuest is a free-to-play social casino. Void where prohibited. Visit SpinQuest.com for more details.